Good afternoon to all the attendees. For the afternoon session on human-computer interaction in the context of natural language processing, we have with us Dr. Shrikant N.S., Joint Director, CDAC Bangalore. Dr. Shrikant has 13 years research and development experience in the area of human-computer interaction and machine learning. He has executed more than 6 research and development projects worth of rupees 70 million funded by various government agencies in the area of e-learning, assistive and accessible computing (HCI). Dr. Shrikant has 5 Indian patents and 1 international patent. He has authored more than 15 publications, includes journals, conference papers, and delivered more than 30 invited lectures. We are indeed honored to have you with us, sir. On behalf of the management of St. Joseph Engineering College and the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, SJEC, I extend a warm and hearty welcome to you, dear sir. Before we proceed to today's session, here are a few guidelines for participants to keep in mind. You are requested to mute yourself during the session. We request all participants to ask questions only towards the end of the session. You may post questions in chat box to avoid congestion. We also request every participant to fill attendance form using the link shared in the chat box and WhatsApp by 4 p.m. This is to inform you that session would be recorded. Participants are required to take up a quiz at the end of FDP covering questions from all sessions. Without further delay, I now call upon Dr. Shrikant to take over the session. Over to you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Kavita. Am I audible? Hello? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kavita, and St. Joseph College of the faculties and principal of St. Joseph College of Engineering. And I extend my great thankful to the management for inviting me for this FDP program in the area of artificial intelligence and NLP. Of course, as Dr. Kavita mentioned, I have been working in the human-computer interaction and machine learning area for some time, and probably I would like to share some of the practical experiences which we have, encountered during the development of various prototype and systems in the areas. Of course, when she asked me about the topic, I don't want to fully aligned with a natural language processing topic, because that is already a explored area and people have been working with that quite a number of years now. Now, actually, I wanted to open up a new research domain or a new research challenges to the research community, including students and faculty members. Of course, some of you are already guiding students for their PhD and master's thesis work and all. So we have been taking so many conventional problems for so many years now, but there are few unattended, very interesting areas where people have tried very little. So in that context, I thought I wanted to introduce to the people, to basically to the research community, including the research students, to start something in this area, so that we will be having some interesting results in the future, especially in the area of human-computer interaction. Now, when we talk about human-computer interaction, of course, few questions will come to our mind. How human interact with human? How human interact with the environment? So, if you look at these two things, how typically a human-human interactions is basically limited to, we can see that it will be like a speech, gestures, and many other biosignals, definitely. And if you look at the human interact with environments, definitely we use all our 5 sensory organs, including audio visuals, because audio visuals are the most prominent things, audio and visual things. In addition to that, human have the capabilities of acquiring olfaction, that's nothing but smell, haptic, it's nothing but touch sensitivity, and taste. Right, these signals also play a very crucial role in the information exchange when a human interact or when a human interact with environment. This is where a new area of human interaction comes. It's called multimodal human computer interactions. Of course, as its name implies, if you are only talking about a speech-based interaction, probably I would call it as a unimodal ways, because we are only considering the speech, which is nothing but the audio signals. That is what the primary modalities of the interaction. But when you talk about a multimodal, the multiple modalities, like multiple mode of communications are used here, so that the processing of a multimodal information will be much more complicated than processing a natural language. That's what basically I wanted to tell you. So let's take a very simple example. Of course, this was the one experiment which we started with. For a master's project, we asked students to implement some systems, basically to help a personal assistant in ATM scenario or a form filling mechanisms. This is where actually we started really our research in the area of multimodal computing. How it works. Suppose I'm sure that we all visit ATM very frequently. Of course, maybe during the COVID period, it might have reduced, but still, we all were used to visit in ATMs for withdrawing money. But maybe being an educated person, when you go to ATM, you will not face much problem, because you know the process. But you see a lot of uneducated people, or maybe, I mean, it need not be uneducated also. Even if you look at a people, little old aged people, they also take little hesitant to directly get into the ATM and start doing the transactions. So we observed a typical pattern when they enter into the ATMs. What they do is they just go in front of the system and do nothing, and they will wait for a couple of minutes, and they will look around, they will look outside. If somebody is staying outside, they will take their help. That is the way it works now. And if you look at the ATM, we all see there is a camera available in every ATMs, but that does only the surveillance or a security purpose. It does nothing more than that. So in that context, our objective was to make use of this particular camera in an effective way, because it basically does a visual job, what a security job does outside. So in that context, if you put a little more image processing stuff along with the speech-based things, how can you make the system more interactive if an unknown person come to a ATM or any such kind of kiosk places? Now, how do you understand a person is not familiar with that? So the moment a person comes, enter into the ATM counter or a kiosk counter, he will be under the surveillance of the camera. Then his activities can be monitored. Suppose even after entering inside the ATM counter, if he is not doing something, definitely there is something wrong with him. It means either he may not be knowing what is to be done, or it can also happen that he may come with a bad intention, some different intentions, right? So 99% of case, 99.99% of cases, it will be the person is not familiar with the system, so he is struggling. So this is even true in case of if somebody comes to an institute or an organization, they will go to the reception. So once looking after the typical mannerisms, like they'll be just roaming around looking here and there, it is obvious that the receptionist will directly go and ask a question, what you want to do, or why are you here, and things like that. So the same thing is expected. Ideally, there is a form which is supposed to be filled. Suppose if it is not happening in a stipulated period of time, then what is going to happen? It's asking, hi, what happened? Like, you want me to help to fill? Then definitely it can say yes, because he may not be really comfortable to what to be done and things like that. Then it will be asking, like, which service you would like to avail, right? Service 1, service 2, like that. So suppose in the normal typical ATM and kiosk scenario, nothing will be there. It will be just there. So you have to start inserting card, then only it will take you to the card, to the actual transaction things. But there is nothing happening prior to that. So this is true in many of the e-government systems, because now we are moving towards a digital India, where all services, transactions, everything is going to be shifted to the digital world. So, and we also have to understand that only only 10 to 20% people are highly equipped with the technological capabilities, and rest of the people either lies within the level of knowing only one language and very limited access to all technological things, right? In such a context, thinking about a system which can cater a wide population is very, very important. Now, at this context, it will be easy for him. So he will ask for service to something like that. Then that is where he is going to, okay, enter your name. So now in this case, what happens is he'll be taking slowly to the system instead of directly jumping into a pool of assignments, right? Because that is what it's happening in the most of the form filling system also. Suppose if I wanted to fill a form or something like that, the moment I log in, I get so many things. But instead of that, if it asks piece by piece or a fragment by fragment, it will be easy for me. These all are the basic principles of the usability. Designing a system by considering the usability factors. Now, what is multimodal? Basically, the multi-model based interaction, this is actually a paradigm shifting from an application-centric design to user-centric design of computer and electronic applications. Because in the olden days, if you remember, only professionals were interacting with the computers. The computers were introduced in somewhere around late 80s, 90s in our country. During that time, we all know that it was used only in very specific application areas like bank or some control system environment and things like that, where highly trained professionals are sitting. So for them, even if a little bit usability factors are lacking, still they'll be able to cope up because they are trained people. But now scenario is changed. Computer and electronic computer applications are being used by common man, and all applications are meant for them actually nowadays. So now it is very important that whatever the applications you provide, it should have a zero training capability. So the moment I say zero training, it should be absolutely zero training, because when you are launching an e-government service or a government service, you cannot train 120 million people in the country to make use of the real service or benefit of the systems. So in that context, you cannot simply go ahead with the simple principle of normal application design, where we only target on the business logics. Because in the banking scenario, it only worries about the how the transaction is happening. Basically, a debit and credit is happening in the systems. So that was their major focus. But now the focus has shifted from that. It is not only that the transaction consistency should be ensured. In addition to that, that usability also considered as a major functional requirement in many of the cases. So this is where you also have to think about a human-like interaction. That is nothing but a natural way of interaction for human to interact with machines. This is where a new paradigm started. It's called the multi-modal interface. Now, when you talk about this multi-modal interface, you can see that there are a lot of very popular input mechanisms are available now. The first one which I point is a gesture-based interaction, because now there are very powerful systems which can actually capture the user's gesture, what they are showing with a hand or head or face or something like that, because emotion recognition systems and hand gesture recognition systems, sign language recognition systems, these systems are quite a good matured systems, and which is being used in the various application context. If you look at the speech, of course, yes, definitely it's a mature technology now, at least in case of English and few European languages. Of course, in the Indian context, still we are little ahead, little behind the compared to the other context, because we have many Indian languages where we don't have a solution which will give you a very reliable results for speech recognition purpose. And definitely haptic or touch is a very popular thing, right? Without that, our smartphone usage should have been really horrible. Keyboard and mouse, this is a technology for years. Now, these all are very mature technologies. So we consider them as a highly mature technologies, right? Now, we have a matured output technologies that is still, it is even restricted to audio and video, right? Because you have input, you have many methods, but output, we are still relying on audio and video. Now, what is the area which is unattended? Now, if you look at here, only visual and hearing and haptic related. So only very few capabilities are properly utilized here. But whereas the other two domains like smell, taste, and these kind of other techniques, which are I can say that only a lab prototype systems are available, but it is nothing more than that at this point, right? I'm talking about, can a computer can really take smell as an input and process and say that this smells like this or it tastes like this? Okay, so of course, these things are only I don't even wanted to call it as a semi-matured. It is even it's even less than that. It's only a lab POCs are available at this point. Now, what about the output semi-mature technologies? Smell, taste, haptic, all these technologies are still in a haptic, sorry, in a very semi-matured or even in a lab POC levels which are existed now. Now, these are the few unattended areas where probably each one of us can put a little more effort, so that we will be having a wonderful experience when we really interact with the machines. Now, let me say a few. Let me spend a couple of minutes more on this particular slide. For example, if you look at in the current advertisement industry, what is actually happening is, if I wanted to, make an advertisement of a talcum powder or a soap, we all are familiar how a talcum powder or a soap, the advertisements are happening in the television or YouTube or mobile or whatever the digital media is available. So it's only about one film actress will be coming, and she'll be taking the soap and she'll be applying over her body and saying that, wow, it smells like a rose, it smells like a jasmine or something like that. Okay. And she only have to convey it, or they show some representations of some images of rose, some images of jasmine, so that internally we will feel that, okay, it smell should be something like these things, but it's not the real smell, right? So it's all depends on the acting capability of that particular individuals to convey the information about the smell to us, each one of us, right? But that is not the case of a audio visual case, because whatever that actress talk, without losing any information, we are able to hear it. And whatever she is acting with, that is also properly captured in a video frames, and without losing the quality, by using the new modern 3D techniques, we can also give a real feel of that particular individuals in the real context. But some of the things like smell, taste, and things like that, it is quite impossible for us. For example, even if you go to a hotel, they give a bunch of big menu to all of us. There'll be multiple menus with different pictures, so it is very difficult for us to take a decision to order a food by looking at the figure and the name, because 90% of cases name will be totally unfamiliar to us, and pictures will be so decorative, so we will be totally get confused like what to order. Now, can you think about a scenario where people can give something of a, so of course there is a mechanism of giving a sample, that is a different contest, but other than that, there is a research group in Singapore which they are already working on some of the technologies where an electrodes can be placed over the tongue and some of the taste can be simulated. So they were able to simulate sweetness and sour with help of few signal processing capabilities. So what basically it does is, you keep the electrodes over the tongue, so it will be able to generate the sweet. Now, what is the advantage of that? Assume that there is a person who is diabetics. Probably what he can do is, he is prohibited to take the normal sugar, where he can drink tea without sugar with the taste of a sugar. That is the beauty of that technology. It means you make a glass with that particular technology and keep the glass over the tongue and drink the tea which is not having sugar, but still you will really feel the taste of the sugar now, right? So these are some of the very exciting opportunities or possibilities where people are working in the area of HCI. Now, coming to the multi-modal interface part, let me see what are the different technologies available. I already discussed some of the things. So, of course, the human perceptual bandwidth are underutilized, right? Because humans have a capability to interact with the environment with the help of 5 technologies, 5 sensor methods, whereas only 2 methods are properly utilized, audio and visual, where other 3, it means 3 by 5 of human information processing capabilities are underutilized in the digital world, right? It means we have not even reached the 50% of the human information capability, but fortunately, most of the information dissemination for the day-to-day purpose are confined to the speech and images. We don't feel that vacuum seriously. Now, integration of the now what I'm going to talk about here is, of course, how to interact with these kind of things, and what are the challenges in the context of natural language processing if tomorrow, if these mature technologies are going to be a part of interaction techniques, right? Because there are two things you have to think about here now. if you look at the speech recognition also, there is one thing like speech signal will be recognized and corresponding text will be generated. Now, once the text is generated, understanding the meaning of the text is a different process. That's what we call natural language processing, right? We wanted to understand what he talk, but speech recognition only does the job of converting a speech signal to the text signals. Now, these two researches were happened parallelly. Like speech to text research was a parallel track which was happening for a long time. Now we have a mature technology, and from a text, understanding the meaning was happening for quite a long time now. Now combining these two technologies will give you a proper system of speech understanding system. In the same way, if tomorrow, if all other mature technology, if all other unmatured or semi-mature technologies start functioning properly, then you need to have a system in the back end which will take care of the understanding process, so that these two technique can be combined. That's what I'm talking about now. Now, definitely, of course, there are two tracks which people can opt. One is developing a input methodologies like, artificial nose, artificial tongue, and things like that. That is one track. Another track is information processing. That's what. So I will be giving little more importance to the second track now, like, because in the context of NLP, what are the challenges and how we get into this problem. Now, when we are implementing these things, definitely in a higher level, probably I can see the different layers of the task. It is something like this. You will be having a lot of applications which will be interacting through an IO monitored systems. Now, these technologies like speech recognition, gesture recognition, haptic, olfaction, taste, and conventional method, these all things will be integrated to a semantic analysis. So the input from this particular each input tech methodologies should be semantically processed, and after processing semantically, it should be given to the input-output control of the operating system, through which it will interact with the various applications. So this is what the kind of a very rough, kind of maybe a very higher level, architectural possibilities when we are implementing a multi-model based systems. So here two crucial things are how the input-output monitoring means how your application will interact with these technologies, and how the semantic analysis process also will be considered, or why is it important and what are the relevance of that in this particular context. Now, let me take a very simple example here. There are two different modalities are involved, speech and gestures. Assume that there is a robot and you are pointing for something like speech, copy this file to that folder. Okay. So assume that you have a, you in your laptop, you are going to implement this where your fingertip movements can be captured, and you are talking to the system saying that copy this file to that folder. So this and that, these two things will be provided as an input, okay, as through gestures. Gestures means you will be either touching over the touch screen or pointing using a stylus or something, whereas you are talking the other things. Basically, it is it's a system which can operate with the help of speech and gestures together. Now, when you operate with these kind of things, your speech recognizer, maybe a Google Speech or a CMU Sphinx speech engine, that will convert this, copy this file to that folder, because that is what I am talking now. Copy this file to that folder. So I will get a text like this, copy this file to that folder. And in addition to that, I will also get a gesture corresponding to the first location, and I will also get a second gesture corresponding to the second locations, right? This is the way a typical interaction works. But can it be in an operatable format? Definitely not, because here two independent informations, even though we consider it as a dependent source, dependent informations, but it has come from two independent sources. Gestures are collected from either from a touch screen or from a camera or from a some other modalities, and speech is considered collected through microphones, and we have generated the corresponding text. So these two independent source information should be synchronized properly to extract the meaning. This is where the challenge really involved. So how do you get into that? So the simple integration of the input-output technologies will not ensure the semantics of the communication, because these two technologies are two entirely different technologies. So a timely, a context-based synchronization of input-output mechanisms are really, really essential in this case. How do we achieve these things? Now let's take the multi-modal message, the synchronization of input. So copy this file to that folder. For example, in that case, definitely multi-modal message have two components here, a speech and a gesture part. So speech part have different words, copy this file to that folder, and gesture correspondingly pointer 1, pointer 2, you're pointing to source folder and destination, source file and destination folder. Then the first, this will be mapped to pointer and that will be mapped to the second one. So this mapping should be done properly. With, then only your semantics will be properly captured and you can further go ahead with doing the operations. So now if you look at the the human machine, we definitely have a one-to-one correspondence, as I told you. Like speech, you have hearing and microphones. Gestural, so visual patterns, right? And it will be collected through camera. Haptic, through touch sensor, temperature sensor, right? All these things. Skin is equivalent to a touch pad. Then olfaction, it's for any smell, taste. So for that we generally use the chemical sensors, and many other electronic sensors like conventional input like keyboard, mouse, joystick, etc. So these all things are giving a collective view of different information technology. So we should expect input from all these things. Now maybe for example, if some of you are interested to develop a system, right? Maybe these are the few components which we can immediately take it up, like speech recognition systems are available, right? And I'll be just taking a walkthrough to that. Now if you look at the different components, like there will be a speech recognition system, gesture recognition system, haptic, artificial nose tongue, semantic analyzer, IO monitor, and outputs. These are the different components which we have already discussed in the previous slides here, right? So I'll be just taking a quick walkthrough through these particular things. Let's start with a speech recognition system. Of course, you all are familiar with speech recognition system. There are different types of speech recognition systems, like speaker dependent model and speaker independent model. As its name implies, the first one is highly trained for a professional based on a particular person's voice. So it's a highly personalized system. But speaker independent is a generic systems, and large vocabulary system and small vocabulary system. So this is where sometimes we have to take a very crucial distance. For example, I am asked to deliver a system for a banking context where probably I can go with a large vocabulary or a small vocabulary. So the simple answer is small vocabulary, because in the banking context, my domain of communication is very limited. It will be only limited to the banking related queries, because what I assume is nobody will call to bank and ask for booking a ticket or something like that, right? So it is actually, if you are interacting with a bank application, it is basically for doing transactions. So what happened when you go with when you choose a small vocabulary system, the accuracy will be definitely good compared to the large vocabulary systems, right? And of course, there is a difference between word recognition system and continuous speech recognition system, because word recognition system is basically an isolated word recognition system. So it means any words can be spoken spontaneously. So it means there is no logical or probabilistic relationship between the previous word and the current word which I am going to talk right now. But in a continuous speech recognition system, which is fully obey on the Markov model principles, where the next word can be predicted by looking at the previous a couple of words. For example, when I am talking, I would like to get, probably you can say, you can fill that what after get. I would like to get some coffee. I would like to get some water. I would like to get some money, whatever. So it means you can actually predict what is going to happen next. So continuous speech recognition systems uses different N-gram models, which is purely relies on the Markov models, where the probability of occurrence of a next word will be predicted based by seeing the previous things. But word recognition systems works totally in a different thing. So these are the different speech recognition system probably one can use. Now, some of the popular systems people uses for research purpose are IBM ViaVoice, CMU Sphinx, Dragon. Naturally speaking, of course, Dragon is a commercially available product. CMU Sphinx is an open source solution which is being used by various research community to do any kind of research speech related purpose. Now gestures. Now, if you look at the gestures, there are different kind of gestures available, like symbolic gestures. It's basically American Sign Language based systems, and these gestures will be used by people with hearing impairment. So you might have noticed that there are some special news in the for hearing impairment people. They'll be showing the news with a lot of gestures with the hand. And another type of gestures is destic gestures. This is a pointing, and iconic, that is basically to discuss about size, shape, and things like that. and classification based on the production and origin. So some gestures are produced by human body, where there are a lot of deep learning based systems which are available even for research or a PO's proof of concept application making purposes, where human body, human hand, hand and face, basically these are the two primary source for for making gestures to interact with the computers. Gestures by object, people may use some object to show the gestures. Now the movement base also, there are two types of gestures, static gestures and dynamic gestures. So static gesture means you will be keeping your hand in a particular position. Dynamic gestures is something like you move your hand. So the meaning of gestures will be decided by seeing the sequence of positions of the object in the air. For example, I am calling someone, definitely what I'll do is I'll be making my hand and waving in the air, means come here. So I will be making some kind of a movement with my hand. But when I say okay, maybe I'll be showing a thumbs up and keeping it for some time. That is actually a kind of a static gesture. But some of the gestures are moving gestures. So we should have a different mechanisms to evaluate static and dynamic gestures separately. Now come to the haptic. Haptic is nothing but what are the informations probably we can capture. So force, pressure, vibration, motion, temperatures. Now we have sensors available for each one of the context. We have pressure sensors, we have force sensors, we have vibrations, we can create vibrations, and you can actually create motion, right? Motion can be censored and temperature can be censored. So now if you have these multiple sensors integrated over a particular controls board or something like that, in a way, you are very close to simulating a haptic capabilities of human. So, of course, artificial nose and tongue, these are something which is maybe most of us are not really experimented, because this is not pure electronics. There is something called a chemical sensors, which will be capable enough to sense the chemical substances in the in the environment. So that is what basically this artificial nose and tongue basically does. So smell and taste are the two different form of input methods or human input capabilities, which is basically analyzing the the chemical properties of the substances, either gas or a object, right? Now what is the challenges involved here? The way we have light converted into 7 colors, because that is nothing but a primary component of colors. So in the same way, we don't have a primary code book for smell and taste, like the way we have a primary code book for light. So this is one of the major challenges which we all face, the people who are working in the area with chemical sensors. So of course, there are a broad classification of organic and non-organic classification, but that is not good enough for us to really get into the domain of smell and taste understanding and decode it to understand like how it can be recognized in the context of a human computer interaction. Now this is what something which we are little interested, because we don't want, some of us, we may not be having a huge facility to access such kind of chemical sensors and electronic sensors and all. But this is purely a software module where you can see following some of the things like human cognitive models. Like semantic analyzer is nothing but which will eventually mock the human cognitive processing system. And definitely you need to have a various modules and the algorithms from NLP, natural language understanding, and extending to other modalities. Of course, that is what we are discussing now. Now, there is something called a multimodal message understanding system by using multimodal grammar generation. So in the natural language context, we have something called a natural language, some grammar with respect to a language. In the same way, if you are talking about a multimodal, there is a grammar for multimodal things also. There should be a separate grammar that should be defined by us. So these are the few areas probably we can seriously concentrate, because this doesn't require much effort. Like, of course, if you wanted to work in a sensor based technology, you need to have access to a good sensor labs and things like that. But this is a pure software things, and it's only a theoretical. Most of the things works in the theoretical domain, and these things can be implemented practically and tested how it works. Now the IO monitor is something which will does the coordination work, because in the normal scenario you have input from only one context, but you will be interested in input from different domain to extract the meaning. This is what the challenge which we are facing. Now, output modality, anyway, I think we discussed. I don't want to spend much time on that now. Now, let me start with a case study implementation. Suppose I wanted to have a basic level desktop interaction systems, because a command for basic system interaction, that is what which I'm going to discuss is. Now, when you talk about a desktop interaction system, for example, I wanted to do some file operations. I wanted to cut the file. I wanted to copy the file. I wanted to open an application. I wanted to close an application. So you can probably list out some 20, 30, different these things to start with a case study implementation of this. Now, a few things which we wanted to know. Of course, that I think I'll talk about spatio-temporal map, multi-dimensional input and density modality, and these kind of things when we go along with the presentations here. Now, let's see a simple multi-modal input. What is expected is it is actually having a multi-dimensional spatio-temporal representation. Suppose assume that along with this is the axis which represent different input techniques, and this is the axis which we represent the time. Suppose I wanted to do a particular job. Now, maybe for example, maybe this you consider as a speech. Input method 1 is a speech. So it is going to talk. So in between talking, I have input from different sensory methods. So input 2 have at the different context, input 3 have different thing, input 4 have different thing. So now the meaning of the interaction is actually sum total of everything. Right, the meaning of the interaction is sum total of everything. Now, if you are taking only keyboard as an input, that is a complete sequence actually. Suppose you give a command through keyboard, that is actually contain everything, because it doesn't expect anything more than that. Now you give a command through mouse, that is actually a complete command. But when you interact with these kind of technologies, it is not a complete command, because you have to derive the command actually. You have to actually map to an input-output monitor, through input-output monitor, to convey what is the meaning. For example, one thing I was telling, copy this file to that folder, and you are showing two gestures. So these gestures and the speech converted signals should be combined, and that should be converted into a system call or a command called cp file name / some folder name, right? I think you can imagine that the command corresponding to command corresponding to copy this file to that folder should be equal to a system call copy, or cp in Linux, cp within the bracket. I'm going to put two things, the source file.txt, and the folder name, whatever. So the file will be copied from that particular location to the folder name. So that mapping from that input output to this thing is the one thing which we are talking about now. Now, what do you mean by density and grammar model selection for these things? Now, when you are talking about a particular multi-model systems, the computers first, the system interaction modules, the first job is nothing but nothing but the understanding which modality is the prominent modality, right? Suppose when I'm talking about copy this folder to that particular, copy this file to that folder, and I'm showing two gestures. Now, if you look at the total duration of interaction, maybe some 15 seconds or 1 second or 2 second duration, out of which only 3 millisecond is dedicated for gestures, and remaining amount is for speech. So it means the speech is the prominent modality. Now, when you are analyzing anything, I think we should analyze in the context of the prominent signal rather than simply giving too much importance to the other signals. So this is where the grammar selection and other things will be little important in this particular cases. So anyway, I think I don't want to spend much time on this particular thing. So this is a higher level algorithms which we implemented to ensure the dynamic grammar model selections. So what basically it does is the pi is nothing but which is going to calculate understand what is the prominent input signal. Now, based on the prominent input signal, we will be selecting that particular grammar models. Now, if the threshold with respect to that particular input modality is highly noisy, for example, I am in a market where my system is responding for a speech, where speech is a highly noisy in an outside environment, probably my system will ask you to switch over from a highly noisy environment, speech interaction mode to a gesture mode, because that is going to be more safe and accurate in that context. This is what we are talking about, the dynamic modality selections, like, because that is what we are also expected. Suppose, assume that you two people are walking over the street, and you are talking something, there is a huge noise, so you are not able to communicate. So definitely you will switch over to some gesture based methods to interact with your fellow traveler. Now, what do you mean by a multi-modal signal, right? So when you talk about the processing, there are two things now. Of course, there are one track which is basically working, developing sensors and things like that. Now, once sensor input is done, now we have to generate a multi-modal message out of it. And this is the message which we are going to process. So we use some kind of an XML based notation to do such kind of jobs. For example, delete this file. Okay, assume like that this is a simple multimodal message. Delete this file. This is a speech signal, and this is something like gestures which we are expected now. Now then assume that you have a speech recognition system connected, you have a gesture recognition system connected, and speech recognition system delete this file as a string, and your gesture recognition system generate the corresponding touch point and the location number correspondingly. So the two things will be coming to your semantic analyzer and multimodal message generation module. And once it reaches the message generation module, system will generate an XML kind of location, because this is actually a beginning of multimodal set where input sets are speech and gestures. So speech have basically, word 1, word 2, word 3, delete this file, because these things are already known things and which we have taken it from that. And gesture will basically point to these kind of things. So this is what something we called multimodal message. This is a simple multimodal message. We are not considering the time as a factor, because here you have only one gestures where time is not a serious issue here. Now, when you wanted to parse it, definitely you have messages from this thing. So delete this file. So instead of this, that will be point to 200.175. So delete 200.175. Whatever is there in that particular location, that is the file which is going to be considered and should be deleted. Now, what input-output method will do? Input-output method will fetch the file name from that, and it will issue a command delete abcdefg or abc.text. That file will be deleted. See, this is the way I think it's going to work. Now, what happened when we talk about a temporal information? So why we need a time actually? Now, if you look at this particular thing, copy this file to that folder. This is the one thing which I'm going to talk about now. So now copy this file to that folder. There are two gestures, this and that. These two are gestures, one pointing to XY and another pointing to PQ. But what will happen, these two gestures copy this should be replaced. This should be replaced with the first gesture, and that should be replaced with the second gestures. Now, if it is ulta, then your whole purpose of the entire communication will go wrong. So it means a timely synchronization should be ensured. To ensure the timely synchronization, we also capture time as well parameters. So what is the starting time of this particular message? What is the end time of this message? What is the start time and end time? Now, once we know the process these things, your first gesture will be corresponding to the first time, and second gesture will be corresponding to the second time. So this is what the logical way of synchronizing the messages. Now, once we synchronize this particular thing, we will be getting a message. It's called copy file at location XY, file to folder at location PQ, means that is the folder. So it means that message is completed. So that can generate a system called CP file.txt, comma, my document. So it means that things will be copied to the my document folder, right? So maybe a little more. So for example, open this file and search for rows. So what is happening here is you are basically taking a some speech file, and you are showing a file with gestures, and you are writing with something with a pen, right? ROSC, you are writing with a stylus or something like that. So here you have three modalities. Of course, two gestures. One is from normal gesture, and another one normal gestures like hand gestures, which are captured through camera or through a haptic sensors. Like if it's a touch screen, I can touch on the screen. Open this file, touch the screen, and say that search for rows. I am giving it as a gesture, like pen gesture. So now in this context, if you look at the multi-modal message will be generated like this, right? Okay, so this is actually an automated process. As and when it comes from the input, it will generate the message like this. Then it should be, the message should be passed. Now, what is the algorithms which we propose for generating the multimodal message here is, if you have a multiple sensory organs which are interconnected with your computer, so your multimodal message generation, that itself is a task, because you have to convert your different signals originated from different these kind of different sensors into a system processable format, right? So this is what typically it does. So it means it will accept input from different signals, and it create repeat until the all input is done. It will create a string, and finally you always get a message something like this, right? This is what the multimodal message generation part. Now, when it comes to the semantics of the part, that is what we were talking about it. Of course, we have a stack-based algorithms to push. You have to push it into the stack-based and this thing. And what will happen is, whenever you encounter an operational keyword and an opcode, because I already told you we are trying to do a case study of a desktop-based interaction with using gestures, pen gestures, and speech. So you will be pushing the element into the queue, and as and when a opcode is generated, you will be popping out the operand. Then accordingly it will be keep going, and finally you will be generating a appropriate input output command for executions. And for doing this particular job in a proper way, you need to have a IO table, IO monitor, a lookup table for IO monitor. That is very, very much important here. So basically what it does is, you have to have, suppose you are trying for an operational keyword search, then it will, we know that what are the parameters which can be, substituted for that. So these parameters will be considered as an operand, and these are considered as the operational word for that. Now, probably we can also have a desktop based interaction system, which will be a case study implementation for a multimodal case. Now, if you look at the larger picture, it looks something like this. You will be having speech, gesture, pen gesture, haptic, and many other sensors. So this each sensor will be generating a sensor lattice, speech lattice, gesture lattice, pen gesture lattice. So you will be getting a different lattices of things, and from these lattices you will be generating a multimodal message. So basically you will be generating a message. Once a message is generated, it will be given for multimodal understanding and semantic analysis part. Now, when it does the semantic analysis, here is the one input correction and error correction and things like that will happen. Now, what do you mean by the input or error correction? For example, I sent something like, I sent an email command, copy this file, and I did not show the gesture. So it means that my command is not complete. It means only part of the command is given. So only thing which they could extract from that entire communication is copy, nothing else. Now the copy, the argument is either I should give it as a speech signal, or I should give it as a gesture, or I should give it as a pen gesture or something like that. But that is missing now. Now what basically it does is, suppose in this particular case, if a feedback will be given to the individual, and the individual can actually see, sorry, the feedback can be given to the individual if their input is missing, then at that particular context, if a person input the corresponding gesture, system will take it. So this is where your interaction become more natural. Now, once message is properly understood, it will be transferred to the input output command, right? Input output command generator. Thereafter, it will go to the application programs for further interactions, right? Okay, now let me come to the last part of my talk. So I already discussed with you, like the current world, what we are talking about is, the digital technology, what we are talking is, which is actually a disabled technology. It means there is something called a concept called the digital disability, right? Digital disability of human perceptual channels. Now, what do you mean by digital disability? So digital disability is nothing but human have a capability of processing 5 different sensory signals, whereas in the digital world we could successfully implement only 2 out of 5. So it means 3 out of 5 channels are still unattended. So what are you going to do is, you are going to do a domain conversion of the values from that domain to some other domains. So what will happen if you have a taste or a haptic or a touch feeling, sorry, haptic or an olfaction feelings, that you will be converting into equivalent speech or a image-based methods. So when any domain transaction happens, there will be an information loss. Suppose, for example, I wanted to comment on an ice cream which I had 1 hour back. So which is totally restricted to me in the sense, in the digital world, I can only say that I can show the image of the ice cream and I can say that it is very good. But what do you mean by very good? There should be something more than that, right? So this representation is still a void, a vacuum in the digital world. Now, there are two different models which are experimented, right? So for example, see the flower, it look like jasmine, but doesn't smell like this. So how it is digitally represented? So it's very difficult. Now, there are two different models which we generally see. One is a human creativity dependent model, and another one is a creativity independent model. Now, what do you mean by the human creativity dependent model? So when you talk about a creativity dependent model, basically what we does is we will be using a story kind of things, where this is what we all are seeing at this point now, because all advertisements are actually the creativity dependent model. It's all depends on how effectively I will make use of the audio visual channel for representing the other informations. So it is basically the ability of a director who is making that advertisement, or the ability of the script writer who is making the advertisement. So that is restricted to that, how effectively you can convey the information of a talcum powder or something like that. But creativity independent is the model which is a pure technology driven model. This is where the people are working now, where you don't worry too much about the creativity of an individual, because system capture everything and it will try to reproduce to the public as much as possible. So I think with this I'll pause here. So if you wish, I can take few questions.
Participants, if you have any questions, kindly post it in the chat box.
Anything? Hello?
Any questions? Participants, you can please post it in the chat box.
Otherwise, probably they can mail also to me. I'll respond to their queries.
Yes, sir.
So I have put my mail ID here. So they can send a mail to me. I'll be able to respond in case if they need any further assistance in this domain. Okay. Thank you. Could you point out?
Thank you, sir,
Okay.
for an insightful session
Yeah. Thank you.
on human-computer interaction in the context of natural language processing.
Okay.
It was indeed an honor for us to have as a resource person for today's session. Thank
Right.
you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, I think I'm seeing one question here. Could you
An
please
active
tools on this context?
audience.
So yeah, could you please point us to tools in this context? Okay, so this is what the points. So the tools basically, that's what I was telling. There are tools like which comes from CMU Sphinx, like that is a speech recognition, and there are a lot of open source algorithms available to do the gesture recognition related systems. So you interact this the open source gesture recognition algorithms with speech recognition algorithm, and you build the semantics and the input output monitor and other things. It is quite possible. Okay, so thank you. I think if any queries, probably you just mail me to my mail address nss@cdac.in. I'll be happy to help you out. To as much as possible from my side to continue research in this particular area. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.